Open Jandaoyun. This is the project management platform for the Automotive Electronics Department. Clicking on the platform takes us to the main interface. The main interface is divided into several sections. On the left is the form panel, which includes various required forms and a database that records equipment information, sample data, and commonly used test standards. The main display area on the right is divided into several sections. First, let's introduce some key features of the platform. 1. Project management. 2. TE inspection. 3. Generation of raw test records. 4. Exporting of original reports. Additionally, it offers basic workload statistics and analysis, as well as equipment information and report due date inquiries. Next, let's look at the different sections of the home page and the information they display. First is the project initiation overview. This summary table shows all open projects. The filter bar above allows us to quickly find projects using various criteria. For example, to view all projects under a specific project engineer, simply select their name and the corresponding projects will be listed. You can then further filter by selecting a specific test engineer under that project engineer. Multiple filters can be used at once. Below is the Report Due Date Query module, which can filter by project start time range. Within the report due date range, you can check which projects are due this week, which need to be closed this month, and so on. This section shows the proportion of delayed report submissions. This section displays the destination of samples after project closure. Below is the detailed test item query, which differs from the project overview above. Each project may contain multiple specific tests. So, what's listed here are individual test entries. This form is linked to the project initiation form above. That means, once we set filter criteria above, this project form will display the test items corresponding to the selected project. It includes the test standard, test content, start and end dates, test results, pass/fail, and the equipment used, etc. We can also use the filter bar here to perform specific queries, and the results will be reflected in the detailed table. Here is a Gantt chart showing the equipment used for each project. The next section is the inspection query module. Based on the submitter, project number, and test item, you can view the latest inspection time, inspection result, and photos for the test. Next is the workload statistics module, where you can see each person's estimated monthly workload. At the same time, workload types are categorized by function. For example, time spent communicating with clients, setting up tests, writing reports, and taking photos. This allows us to understand the time distribution and provides a data basis for future improvements. After explaining the homepage, we'll go through the entire testing process and how original records are created and continuously edited. First, let's introduce the overall system process. We'll explain the details through examples later. This is just an overview. When the department assistant receives the project initiation request, they fill out the project initiation form, complete their part, and start the workflow. Then, the workflow will be pushed to the project engineer, who needs to further complete the technical information of the project. At this point, a raw test record will be automatically generated and sent to the test engineer, and a new workflow will also be initiated. In the new workflow, the test engineer must fill in required testing conditions and schedule based on the project engineer's input and the specific test requirements. After the test engineer finishes filling out the test conditions, the project engineer will review and approve them. Only after approval can the test begin, during which the test engineer will carry out the test and complete the raw record simultaneously. When the test is completed, the workflow is pushed back to the project engineer. At this point, the project engineer must review the completeness and accuracy of the raw test record. Once reviewed, the workflow moves to the report editor, who will generate the report based on the raw report. Of course, some reports are completed by the test engineer themselves, in which case the process skips the report editor and directly ends the original record process. When all original record processes for the project are finished, the entire project process automatically returns to the lab manager, waiting for the lab manager to review the report. After report review, the process is pushed to the department assistant to upload and encrypt it in the LMS system. If the project is delayed, the project engineer needs to explain the reason for the delay here. Then the entire process ends. Next, let's demonstrate the operation method with a specific case. First, as the department assistant, we create a new case by selecting the project initiation workflow form. Input project number, client name, responsible project person, sales staff, OEM, and order amount, among other project information. Click Submit, then the project appears in the assigned project engineer's to-do list. At this point, the project engineer needs to accept the case and complete some technical information. They need to enter the sample name, which test engineer the test is assigned to, and what the test content includes. Report requirements and the quote at that time. Filling in the quote primarily calculates the discount rate for this order. If there are attachments to note for this project, they can be uploaded here. Now, let's specifically discuss the test detail form. The number of rows in this test detail form determines the number of original test records. A single test will automatically generate one original record. First, select the required test standard here. This button links to the standards library, which contains commonly used test standards to prevent input errors or reduce input time. We maintain some commonly used standards in the standards library for selection. The standards library can also add new standards here, of course. This requires manual maintenance. Next, we try selecting a test standard. You can see subsequent content automatically appears without manual editing. If the needed standard is not in the standards library, we can manually edit it here. This information will also be passed on to the responsible test engineer. Here, we need to set an issue date, which is used to calculate the delay rate or directly feedback to the customer, so please evaluate carefully before setting. Then we click Submit, and the case is initiated. The test engineer will receive 2 pending original record tasks like this. Next, it is time for the test engineer to begin test preparation. Open an original record. At this stage, the test engineer needs to do 2 things: confirm test conditions and confirm test samples. If the project engineer has selected test conditions, the title will appear here directly. The test engineer finds the corresponding standard in the standards library based on the title and selects it. In this way, the detailed test method for this test will be displayed. If the project engineer did not select from the standards library but directly input test conditions, then the previously entered test conditions will be displayed here. Then comes sample confirmation. At this stage, the test engineer should have received the samples. He needs to confirm the test items, then classify and count the samples before entering the sample allocation method and numbers. Click here to add samples, select this order number, then enter the leg number, sample letter ID, and sample quantity. For example, leg 1 has 3 samples and leg 2 has 6 samples. Let's enter these. Here's a tip. Sample numbers can be entered in any test within this project number. That is, in one test of the project, all leg samples can be entered at once. Then, during the test phase, just select them. At this stage, there is one more item to fill out, which is the test working hours, divided here into 4 major categories. The test engineer self-assesses the project's difficulty and estimates the working hours consumed in each category here. After confirmation, submit. Next, the project engineer needs to confirm the test conditions. Register the personnel confirming, confirmation time, and verify the workload, then click Submit. After submission, the process will return to the test engineer. At this point, test can be began. First, the test engineer needs to select the test sample, which is selected here. The meaning of a sub-item is which test this is in this leg. We can add the data tables needed in the Origina records here. For example, we need to record some additional data such as current, voltage, etc. At this time, before testing, the test engineer can use the system to print the original record, which will accompany the sample during circulation. Let's look at what this original record contains. It consists of 4 QR codes and some basic information. This QR code is used during inspections. The detailed inspection method will be explained later. These 2 QR codes are the project number and test name used when we operate the photo system. This data view QR code is used to check all data of the test, i.e., all backend data of this original record. After printing, the offline test officially begins. During testing, the original record is continuously updated. You can see there is quite a lot of content to enter this time. During the entire testing process, the process stays at this stage. That is, please do not submit until the information is fully completed. Next, let's explain this step in detail. The test conditions were confirmed previously. Now, in the test process section, enter start and end times. Test environment, working mode, test setup photos. Photos here can be taken on-site and uploaded directly or uploaded from local files. This location allows naming photos, and the names will appear in the exported report. Test data is uploaded here and can also be renamed. There are 12 blank preset spots for setup and data. If there are many photos, more can be added later after exporting the report. Test equipment section. On-site, we scan the QR code on the test equipment with a phone to register the device into the original record. Equipment information will be filled automatically. Sample and results section. Samples were added earlier, so no need to add here. If adding here, note that you need to exit and re-enter, otherwise, the system won't refresh. The test conclusion here is the overall conclusion and should be filled in after the test ends. Detail results can be entered one by one here or uniformly filled using the shortcut below. After selecting the result language, example phrasing appears below. Inputting in the box will reflect on each sample's test result above. This conclusion is for each sample's test result. The post-test sample disposition is filled in here. Once the test ends, this information is naturally completed. After the conclusion, the process can be submitted. Next, let's complete this original record and demonstrate the automatic report export process. I have completed this original record with photos and data uploaded. Next, let's demonstrate automatic report export. After submitting the process, the project engineer needs to review the accuracy of the original record. After review, the process goes to the report editor. The report editor first finds this original record in the backend. Then selects the report language to export. Then a draft report is completed and downloaded. Needing some formatting adjustments and removal of unnecessary tables. After downloading and opening the Word file, the report is still missing two things: the cover and back pages and photos before and after the test, as test photos have already been automatically downloaded from the system. We use a VBA program to complete these two tasks. First, for the cover and back pages, we select the program and choose the corresponding cover template. Then select the project application form so the contents are imported intact into the report. Next, we paste in the photos taken before and after the test. If photos were taken using the automated photo station system, photos will be stored on the public drive, already categorized and numbered. We directly select the corresponding folder and the matching photos will be inserted. By default, 2 photos, front and back, are used. If the sample is complex, more photos can be added manually. Finally, adjust formatting and add time and other details, and the report is basically completed. Lastly, let's talk about how to use the system inspection function. Use the Jandaoyun system to open the inspection function. Then scan the inspection QR code on the original record, and prompts will appear on the phone. The prompt informs the test engineer about the test conditions for this test. Then the engineer inspects the corresponding items according to the conditions. Photos from inspections are saved in the system backend and can be viewed and queried on the homepage.